Hi, I'm super excited because I'm finally on my 50 and a half birthday trip. My video editing capabilities are super limited away from home. I did not bring my laptop with me, so this is just going to be a very simple introduction to the trip. So, in this video, some of the questions I'm going to answer are: where are you going? Why are you going there? And why the heck didn't you drive? Because if you've watched my channel at all, you know I drive as much as possible. So first of all, where am I? I'm in Alaska, my first trip here. What you see behind me is the hostel where I'm staying. So why did I choose to go to Alaska? Well, this is something I've been dreaming of for 40 years. When I was in 5th grade, age 10, we were required to do a report on a state. I don't remember whether I picked Alaska or was assigned it. All I know is I had to do a lot of research on it. And yes, this partially meant going to the library and reading out of 20 or 30-year-old books, as one does in elementary school. But I also found an issue of National Geographic that was full of pictures, and I absolutely fell in love. I swore I would visit someday. So why did it take me 40 years to get here? Well, for starters, I was married for 20 years to a guy who hated traveling, absolutely hated it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I asked about travel when we were engaged because it's important to me. And he seemed very enthusiastic about going abroad and stuff like that. But once we were married, he just refused to go anywhere. And the few trips we took, it was a struggle to get him to do it. His idea of vacation was going to visit his parents, which, I mean, it's not that I minded that, but that was the only thing he ever wanted to do. And he wouldn't let me travel by myself, because, right, if he wants to stay home, that's fine, he can stay home, but I don't want to stay home. Well, after I got myself out of that marriage, I was poor. I couldn't afford to travel. Now, I did do a really great trip for my 40th birthday. I visited the big island of Hawaii, but that was when I was still traveling to Honolulu to do research. So my plane ticket over to Honolulu was paid for, and I just had to pay to hop over to the big island, which was not that expensive. Anyway, I took 3 days before our ship left to go to the big island and see volcanoes, because I'm a massive nerd, in case you didn't know that. Well, at some point I realized if I were ever going to get to Alaska, I would have to save for it and plan for it, because I'm not rich and I probably never will be. So I decided to have a target date to get that savings in place, and that was my 50th birthday. Now, of course, I couldn't actually come here for my 50th birthday because that falls in the middle of the school year. I actually taught lab on my 50th birthday. Anyway, I've been dubbing this my 50 and a half birthday trip for the past 5 years or so, and that's what I'm up to now. Okay, the last question is, why didn't I drive? Because again, I drive everywhere. Well, I actually planned to drive. It was going to be a really epic 3-week trip that hit many parts of the far north. BC, Yukon, Skagway, Fairbanks, Denali National Park, Anchorage, the Kenai Peninsula, and Wrangell St. Elias National Park. But then the global health crisis hit and the Canadian border closed. All through 2020 and into 2021, I watched to see if it would reopen in time, because I had a backup plan. I always have a backup plan. And if I were going to implement that backup plan, I'd have to do it several months in advance. By the time my actual 50th birthday hit, the Canadian border was technically open. But even though it was open, it had opened earlier and then reclosed before it reopened. So that might happen again. And also, even though it was technically open to spend any serious amount of time in Canada, which I did plan to do as part of the trip, you had to present a plan for how you would quarantine for 2 weeks if you got the virus. Yeah, It honestly didn't look all that good. And since I didn't know what was going to happen in the next 6 months, I decided to go for the backup plan. Now, my original backup plan was to fly to Anchorage and basically do what I just did in Colorado, rent an SUV and sleep in the back. But at the time I was making the reservations, there was a serious issue with that, which I don't know if this is still the case, but back then, Alaska was still suffering from the pandemic-induced car shortage, and rental cars were $200 a day. I repeat, $200 a day. And that was for a compact car, not an SUV. So, since I could not afford, even if I could have afforded it, I don't think I would have wanted it. I couldn't afford to spend $2,000 on a rental car. I came up with a better plan. I would see Alaska without a car. And that is what I'm here doing. Car-free Alaskan vacation, 12 days of seeing as many parts of this beautiful, huge state as I can. And by the way, okay, caveat, this is only car-free with air quotes, because of course I drove myself to the airport and will drive myself home. And I did take a taxi from the airport to this hostel that I'm staying at in Fairbanks. So it's not completely car-free. But there aren't any huge long-distance car trips like I normally do when I'm on a vacation. So how am I going to do this? And how much is it going to cost? If you want to find out the answers to those questions, you'll have to subscribe to my channel to watch the videos that follow. You'll see me struggle with how much stuff to bring. You'll see me deal with the lack of a car and see some really epic landscapes. And of course, we're going to talk science, because that's what I do. You can subscribe if you want to follow my journey. Dr. Robin, signing out.